Thank you for coming today, everyone. Today's in-depth training class, we're going to be talking about receiving materials, how to receive materials with and without the accounting module. There are a couple assumptions that are going to be made at the start of this call, so we do recommend that you take a look at some of the other training videos if these fall into your particular situation. This video is going to assume that you have the inventory module, that you have a basic use of knowing how to use the inventory module, and for the second portion where we talk about how to receive inventory with the accounting module, it's going to assume that you own the accounting module on your system. If you have any questions about those, you can talk to your salesperson about the prices, and also you can take a look at the training videos with regards to the inventory to learn an introduction on how to use the inventory. So if we go to control, we have a part that's already set up that's set to track inventory. We're going to be using the black acrylic beads and how you can essentially take this part, create POs for this part, and how you can receive the materials for this particular part. So if we take a look at right now, we currently have 102 beads on hand. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and write up a purchase order, and I want to do an order for 500 more beads. So I'm going to do new purchase order. I'm going to type in my vendor, and my item type is going to be part, and I'm going to pull up the beads in the list here. Brings over all the information about the beads, and I'm going to go ahead and say I want to buy 500 beads. Save as purchase order, and I have my purchase order. The first option that we're going to look at is going to be how to receive this material without the accounting module. So if you own the inventory but you don't own the accounting, essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to do a purchase order, receive that purchase order, and close out that purchase order all from the same screen. And once you do all that information, that's how you receive the inventory without the accounting module. So essentially, once I have my purchase order, all I have to do to receive it is go over here and do change status, and I can either change it to received or I can just go straight to closed. Since we're not really going to be tracking the status of the purchase order from between received and closed, I'm just really going to go ahead and mark this entire purchase order as closed. So what's going to happen now is if I go back to my part, I'll see that I have received 500 as soon as I mark that purchase order closed. So all you have to do without the accounting module is after you've created the purchase order, just mark it as closed, and that will receive the materials for you and track those materials within the system. So I can see here that I have 602 on hand. And that's for without the accounting module, that's all there is to it. There's not really any special tips and tricks. The one thing that you cannot do without the accounting module is you can't do any partial received. So let's say I ordered that 500, but only 300 came in on that first order. There's not really a way to do that without actually editing the purchase order and changing the number down to be 300. What we're going to be looking at now, though, is how to be able to receive those same materials but with the accounting module. So the first step is going to be the same. I'm going to do new purchase order. My item, and we're going to do another 500. So now I have another purchase order entered in for the quantity of 500 that I want to receive, but this time I'm going to be using the accounting module method. So the very first thing is when you have the purchase order, you basically go and mark the purchase order as ordered when you actually order that material. And if I go back to the part setup, I'll see that I have 500 on order. If I go back to the purchase order, we have two different ways that we can go about receiving these materials with the accounting module. The very first method is I'm going to go ahead and open the purchase order and convert. So I can convert this purchase order to a receiving document. It's going to ask you, do you wish to convert this to a receiving document? I'll say yes. From here, I can tell it how many I actually received. So when you're using the accounting module, you can do partial receive because in this case here, I can say that out of that 500, maybe only 400 came in. So I get to change that option now on the receiving document, whereas I couldn't do that earlier without the accounting module. In this case here, we'll just go ahead and receive the entire batch. So I'll just save 500 and then save as receiving document. And what it does is it will close that receiving document as soon as I save it. So the receiving document is closed. If I go to the part setup, I'll see that it's no longer on order, and now that moved it moved the extra 500 into received. What I can do now is, if I go back to that receiving document, I can convert the receiving document to a bill just by clicking on Convert to Bill. So yes, do you wish to convert to a bill? Yes. And then just save that bill. What that does is that will move it out of received and into the billed column. So it still tracks it. Both columns are tracked as the on-hand value. It's just a matter of, has it been billed yet? Has it been paid for? Or have we just received it and not paid for it yet? So that's the first method of being able to use the accounting module to receive a material. The second method is, if I go and do another new purchase order, and I'll pick our same part. We'll do 500. And we'll mark it as ordered. So the other way that you can receive this material whenever you're using the accounting module is, essentially, when you go to convert, you can just convert straight to a bill and skip the receiving document altogether. So you just say convert to bill. It's going to ask you if you wish to convert it. Say yes. And save as bill. In which case then, if I go to that part, it just skipped the received altogether and went straight to the billed function. And that is essentially all there is to receiving material within the system. I will go through a quick example of a partial received order. So if I go back and say another purchase order for our same part, we'll do 500 and save as purchase order. We'll go and mark it ordered. And now, let's say I have 500 ordered, but the truck came in and only 300 were on the truck, so I still have 200 that I'm waiting for. All you have to do to handle that is when you convert, you can do convert to receiving document, and then just change the quantity to say 300. And what's going to happen is it's going to close the receiving document. If I go to the part, I'll see that I have that portion now that got brought in as received, and then the portion that's still on order stays on order. So it keeps track of what's still ordered and what is still, what's been received and what is still currently on order. If I pull up the purchase order that was being used there, I can see based off of some of the columns that are showing, I have quantity 500, I've received 300, I haven't billed it yet because we haven't created the bill, and I still have 200 waiting. If you're missing any of these columns and you want to be able to add them to your screen, all you have to do is anywhere in the white section below the purchase order, just right-click and do Column Chooser. And then you can add in the extra columns for quantity received, quantity to build, and quantity remaining if you're missing those columns and you want to see them. And that is how you go into the system and how you can receive a material either with or without the accounting module. Thank you, everyone, and y'all have a great day.